Hello, everyone. I'm back with another video. Not a podcast, surprisingly. This one is my thoughts on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which, a little disclaimer before I start, I don't actually have the games yet. I'm going to base my opinions and thoughts on gameplay I've seen through other people's playthroughs, and what I can gather from just other people who've expressed their thoughts and opinions. And I'll tell you about my team that I have planned too. But to start off with, I have been seeing not claims, but opinions that this game isn't great and it's this bug filled mess, I suppose. Which it being bug filled isn't really an opinion. Yeah, it does have bugs in it from what I've seen. But that's just come to be expected of any game, I would think. I don't like the idea of holding anybody in too high of regard because then you just kind of set yourself up for disappointment. You always have to go into everything with a grain of salt. So I don't really feel like it's that big of a problem. If you experience them, that's kind of bad. But it's Nintendo, quality control. I expect they will, if they're too big of a glitch, like if they're game breaking, then they probably will issue a patch or an update or something, I would think. Because we live in that age nowadays. It's not like, if you were back in GameCube era where they didn't give you a patch because it was a physical release disc. We're in the age of where games can be updated, and most of the times they are. So I don't think it's too big of an issue. So that whole really opinion of well, like I said, it's not opinion, but people are just saying that the game isn't great, and it's an opinion, but I feel like it's a really cold take. I believe, on the contrary, that these games are a very great step forward for the Pokemon franchise. Going all in on that open world idea is just an amazing idea. I'm glad they really went with it because it was in a small concentration in Pokemon Sword and Shield with the wild area and then also in the DLC islands. Those were pretty cool. And then even further in Pokemon Legends Arceus, where it took the approach of just, it's not entirely open world. You have a loading zone you have to go to get to the different areas, but the areas themselves are open world pretty much, which was great. I had a fun time with both of those games, and from what it looks like, I'm going to have a really fun time with this one as well. It just looks fantastic. And something else that I'd like to note is, so over the past few days, I've been making images of my past teams for past games that I've been, that I've played through. And a trend that I've noticed is that they get more and more silly, I suppose, because starting back, the first Pokemon game I ever played was when I was 10, I think, was Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. So my team had I don't know, maybe I'll insert an image of it, but it was Gallade and Salamence and Blaziken, Cacturne, and three of them could Mega Evolve. So, and it was really edgy, not that I was edgy as a 10-year-old, but it was just a bit more of serious, oh yeah, these Pokemon are cool, this one has blades for arms and this one's a big dragon, rawr, or whatever. And then, as I come up on this generation, half my team are just they're either little funny little guys or they're I don't know, they're not necessarily serious, which, hey, I'm all for that, but yeah, so actually on that note, I'd kind of like to talk about my team that I have planned. I'll probably have an image of it up while I'm talking about it. So I debated for a while what starter I should pick because they all looked really good, I was initially thinking to pick the grass starter. What the heck is it? I can't think of its name. I know the final form. I can't think of the grass cat. And then I was like, well, I don't know, because grass is my second choice usually. It usually goes fire, grass, and then maybe water, except for like Blastoise. That's like the one case where I usually choose water first. But once they revealed the final forms and like the typings and all that kind of stuff, oh my goodness, like it was just such an easy. Well, I don't want to say it was entirely easy, but I knew which one I was gonna pick because Meowscarada, the final evolution of the grass cat, is just Sprigatito. That's the first stage of the grass starter. But yeah, Meowscarada, the final stage, the typing is so bad. Like, it has more weaknesses than it has strengths, and it is just not good. And it doesn't even look that good, anyways. And of course, they followed the trend of making it bipedal. Everyone didn't want it to be, but they still did. And the water starter Quaxley evolves into its final stage is Quaquaval, which it looks interesting. It's like this dancer, and it kind of has like peacock feathers behind it, but only sometimes, and they look like water droplets. It's kind of a unique design, and I kind of like it, but it's alright. But for me, I've made up my mind because I've built the team already around it, and it looks really good. I'm choosing Fuecoco, which I didn't think I was going to at first because I didn't really like the design of Fuecoco, like his first stage. Because he looked like this little apple kid guy fire croc thing, and it wasn't really all that cool. Not that I base it off coolness, but I just didn't like how it looked. But Skeledirge, oh my gosh, I have never seen a better glow up ever. Because he's a quadruped, Day of the Dead crocodile. And it's like, oh, those are flames coming out of his mouth, which they look like flames, but they're marigolds, like the Day of the Dead flower. And oh my gosh, that is so good. That is just such a good design. And because the Paldea region is based off of the Iberian Peninsula, like Spain and Portugal, that just fits so good. It's just such a great Pokemon. And so it's got 2 immunities, normal and fighting. And so, like, that, it's just a really good type, And it resists a lot of other stuff. And it has more strengths than weaknesses. Like, it deals more super effective, I think, than it does gets hit super effective, if I remember correctly. So, next up, I want to talk about Farigiraf briefly. Because I just like Farigiraf. I think it looks really cool. I'm glad they're going back and giving older Pokemon evolutions. I think all the Pokemon, unless it's like a gimmick one like Spinda and maybe Ditto, though I'd still like to see Ditto have an evolution. But I'm glad that they go back and give these evolutions that they so much needed. Since they revealed Farigiraf, I knew it was going to be on my team. I wanted it to be on my team. And normal Psychic is a pretty good typing. It's got a ghost immunity, So, yeah. And next up, let's talk about Wugtrio. Now, I was never really a big fan of Wiglet when they revealed it. It looked kind of stupid. And Wugtrio does very much look stupid. But I've kind of embraced it, and also I needed a water type. And the water type choices are a little slim. Like I wanted it to be new Pokemon. My team to be made up of new Pokemon. I didn't want any returning ones, And Wugtrio fit that role really good. And, I've warmed up to it. It looks like a bunch of little sausages sticking out of a rock, and that's kind of funny. I'm going to 100%, when I catch that thing, I'm going to name it Sosig. 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 So, and I never really nicknamed Pokemon that much, but I think I'm going to for this one. Next up is Scovillain, and Scovillain I think is also really cool. I like the name. And the design looks like it's straight out of Plants vs. Zombies, honestly. And he's so small. His cannon height, I think, is like 2 foot something. He's really small. So it's like this intimidating fire pepper, And it's just really small, though. Just like this little guy. And Firegrass, I am so glad they have a Firegrass type. Everyone wanted a Firegrass type, and it is finally here. They could have not done a better job with it. And that's just a really good type because, grass has a weakness to fire. But by making that fire type, it, removes it, and that's just really good for a grass type, you know? And I was a little hesitant to put Scovillain on my team because I don't usually like to have a type overlap because, you know, I have Skeledirge, and Skeledirge is already a fire type. But in this case, I think I can overlook that because of just how much of an advantage it has for a grass type as well. So I'm hoping that his moveset, like, it's an equal balance of grass and fire. So I'm excited to use Scovillain for sure. Next up, we'll go with Flamigo, and I think Flamigo is funny. I don't like it shiny, but I think it's funny because just the name, you know, Flamigo. It's like the most simple pun you can imagine. You just take out like the letter N from the word flamingo, and it's just Flamigo. You know, I cannot wait to go through and see some of like the Spanish puns or just like Spanish inspired names that they do for Pokemon names in this region. Like, which one was it? There was one of them. Sprigatito. Yeah, like Sprig is like a part of a tree or something. So, you know, not in Spanish, like the word sprig. It's like a part of a plant. And then gatito, I'm pretty sure. I know gato is cat, and I think adding ito to it makes it like small cat. So it's like small plant cat. And it's like, that's a really, you know. And Flamigo, it's the same thing. It's literally like a flamingo, but he's your amigo. He's your friend. So, and Flamigo, I didn't think it would be a fighting flying type. Like, it's the same type as Halucha. But, you know what? That's honestly a pretty good type, I would say. So, that's why I'm using it. And then finally we have Clodsire. Clodsire is a friend. He is friend shape. Clodsire is so pure, so amazing. It's like if you took Quagsire, but made it horizontal, you know? Because Quagsire has the derpiness, but he's tall. Clodsire has the derpiness, but he's wide. He's long. So, and something else, it has one immunity on its own, right? Which is electric, because it's ground type. However, if you give it water absorb as its ability, it has 2 immunities. So I think that's a really good choice. There is a bit of a lack of fairy typing on this team, but I never really use fairy typing anyways. Overall, like, the full Pokedex of new Pokemon look really good. The Paradox Pokemon, some of them are okay, some of them aren't. Like, I'm glad I'm primarily going to be playing on Violet, because the robotic looking forms are definitely a lot better than some of the ancient looking forms. I don't know, some of the ancient ones are just kind of lazy. Like Jigglypuff, it's literally just, oh, it's got a long strand of hair. And Misdreavus, it's just like, oh, it's got longer wisps, I guess you could call them that. So I definitely like the more robotic looking future Paradox Pokemon. And I might try to incorporate one on my team later on, like Iron Valiant. I think that's what it's called, like the robotic Gallade Gardevoir mix. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. And I don't know if this is a spoiler or not. I mean, it should be like, you know, public information by now. Well, I mean, it is, but I haven't really seen anyone get to this part in a playthrough, so I'm a little hesitant talking about it. But like, if you go on like Serebii, or like you go in the Pokedex, I guess, once you complete the game, there's these like weird kind of like, I don't know if they're legendaries or they're not legendaries, because like I said, I haven't played the game. Like, and they're like, they're kind of strange looking, I don't know. And they have like Chinese, I want to say, sounding names, you know? And I don't know, they're not my favorite, you know? Hopefully they are not, like, I'm not going to use them, you know? I don't really know what importance they serve in the story, but yeah, I'm not really a big fan of those. But the other Pokemon look cool, you know? Like the normal ones. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to do with this video. Get it out, you know, maybe have the algorithm pick it up. We'll see. But, yeah, Tuesday, I'm probably still going to upload another podcast episode. So look out for that one. And I'll see you next time.